Welcome back, everyone, to another session of the Neota Network. So we are really excited about this one because not only is it on our law firm track, but also it talks a lot about the process of how to leverage Neota Logic as a prototyping tool. And I think that's something that a lot of people have been interested in, especially as we've developed our Canvas product, which is our absolutely lightweight and perfect for prototyping platform. So today, we're actually going to hear from two expert speakers. We have Erin Kenyajan, who's a legal transformation lawyer at Gilbert and Tobin, and also Lisa Ziegert, who's the head of knowledge and practice innovation, also at Gilbert and Tobin. And Erin and Lisa today are going to be talking about, like I mentioned, prototyping. So not only that, but prototyping like a pro, particularly how you can prototype in a professional services environment. So really excited for this one, and I will hand it over to you. Take it away, Erin and Lisa.
Thanks, Max. So I'm Lisa, the Head of Knowledge and Practice Innovation at G&T. My team works on apps for both internal purposes and client use cases.
And my name is Erin, and I am a legal transformation lawyer at Gilbert and Tobin. And I've been working on Neota apps in studio since my final year of law school. And I've had the pleasure of working for the past few years in this field, helping build quite complex apps now, both internally and externally for clients. And we do just want to encourage everyone to just hop into the chat. Lisa and I would love to interact with you as we go throughout this session.
Yeah, that would be great. So at G&T, we work in the Legal Services Innovation Group across different teams. We've got experts in knowledge management, legal project management, and legal informatics, working very closely with our transformation team. G&T is known as being one of the most innovative firms in the country, and that we couldn't achieve so much without being a well-structured team.
Yeah, and I mean, we are very fortunate, but if you are in a smaller team, or perhaps you're just a team of one, but you really want to get into this space and you want to be building a lot of apps and working with different types of technology, please don't be discouraged. Great strides can still be made and apps developed, even if you're just in a small team. So in terms of what we're going to be covering today, we are going to be talking about agile and iterative delivery with a specific focus on prototyping your no-code app for legal teams or in professional services environments.
Our approach is taking prototyping from design thinking methodology, and we're also adapting how to use it best, and we're also working in an agile way. So with Prototyping 101, what we're looking at is once you've got your great idea, you've gone through all of the best practice design thinking stages. And I know a few of the other speakers have already talked about identifying your use case and identifying what could be a no-code solution. There's this temptation to just jump straight into the platform and start building. But based on our team's experience, the better approach is actually to start with prototyping before you do. The purpose of prototyping is that you're testing to make sure that the app will meet the user's needs. It's really important to get that user feedback up front, and it will save you time in the long run.
I mean, definitely, I would just add to that as a junior, someone more junior, I think I really have this desire to impress, and I think I know it all. And so I just want to jump into Neota and start building. But honestly, you need to take a step back. You have to journey map, process map. It's only by doing that that you really identify the pain points and you then save yourself from running the risk of building a solution that does not meet the needs of the end user. Also, I mean, with prototyping, if we're thinking prototyping 101, we think of engineering and startup tech environments where there's all of this talk about rapid prototyping and failing fast and iterating quickly. But for this session, Lisa and I were really talking about how do those methods translate into a professional services environment.
So we thought we'd share what we do at G&T. So with low fidelity prototyping, which is a simple or low tech prototype, it's just testing the concept rather than the usability. What we do is map out a decision tree, and then you can understand how the app will flow and how the logic is going to work. So this can be just done in a simple way. You can use Word or PowerPoint to map out a process map. Tools like Visio can also help you. And you can also, if you wanted to use a whiteboard or some kind of online collaboration tool, Miro board is a really good one. Once you have your process map, you can determine the scope of your app. And it's also going to be a really easy way to identify, are you missing any steps? Do you need to reorder your logic? It's quite quick this way to work out that you may need to rearrange things before you get started, create new variables, or even build in a new branch. It also helps to identify the scope of the first iteration and things that you can add to that app in future. For example, we released an app where we later added a customized checklist, which was sent to the user at the end, but we'd already been able to release one version of the app and then include a checklist in the second iteration. And we'd also really recommend getting input from a subject matter expert at this stage. They can have a look at your process map and also guide you in the right direction, make sure that the app will meet the end user's needs, and work out if there's anything that's been missed. We've seen apps change quite significantly at this step, even if it's just quite a simple app. Looking at high fidelity prototyping, you can use some kind of clickable wireframe to make it functional. You want it to be interactive. You can use some software to do this. What we usually do at G&T is just to build the first iteration in Neota. You can build out one version to show users without having a fully functioning app. It can just be part of the workflow that you are showing them at that stage. And something else we do at G&T, we use our transformation team to prototype with. We have former lawyers and tech experts in our team. We can get the legal feedback from them before putting it in front of lawyers. So it's this simultaneous prototyping and user testing, which really works well for us.
Now, another interesting thing that we do at G&T when it comes to our prototyping, it might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but we really consider who our test group is when we're creating the prototype. Now, as I mentioned before, in the engineering firms or the startup, the tech companies, they really just want to fail fast and prototype really quickly. And so you think about, the water gun with the popsicle sticks, for example. But when I'm prototyping, the people that I'm going to be testing with are lawyers. And we know a lot of things about lawyers, how wonderful they are. We also know that they are perfectionists, they're A-type personalities, and lawyers are also used to seeing documents. And when they see these documents, they see documents that are ready for review and that are final. Now, keeping that in mind, when I put an app in front of them, the prototype of my app tends to be a lot more polished. So I've actually spent a lot more time on it. It's not low fidelity. It's not in that process mapping stage. It's an actual app that I've also taken time to ensure that I have all of the content in there and that it's neat and that it's fluid and that it makes sense. Because if I don't do that, then if I'm getting my user group to test my prototype, I might be wanting to get them to test a specific feature. I might be wanting feedback on how it looks and how it feels. Does it make sense? But all I'm going to get from them is that there's a missing comma and that the content doesn't make sense. So I do have some top tips when it comes to user testing and prototyping. The first would be is when you put that prototype in front of the lawyer, in front of the person in your professional services firm, you set expectations and you really set the scope for testing. You tell them it's the first iteration. You tell them that that things need to be improved. You give the scope for what you're trying to test with them. Even if you do that, if you have put something in front of them that really is quite messy, you really might not get out of the session what you're hoping to get out of them. Another top tip is to give a clear deadline for when you require feedback. Lawyers are wonderful. They're also incredibly busy. So don't be afraid to send reminders, but also don't be disappointed if those reminders go on deaf ears and the deadline is missed time and time again. Now, in Lisa's other slide, she talked about simultaneous testing and prototyping, and this works wonders. So I highly recommend when you put that prototype in front of the lawyer for the first time, share your screen and actually watch them go through the app and collect feedback as you go. by doing this at just the end of the session, you'll have a ton of feedback. You don't have to wait for a week or 6 months to know what the user thinks. You have it right then and there. You finish your 30 minutes or your hour, and then you can click out and start working on your next iteration. And finally, make sure to build for future iterations. Now, what does that look like for me? Well, working with wonderful Lisa, I've learned all about knowledge and really storing that documentation. Working in studio in Neota, as we know, it is complex, and the things that you can do with logic are quite boundless and wonderful. However, what that can also mean is that you can come back even just a week later and you see what you've done and you might have no memory. So if you want to build out on that logic or maybe fix something, you might forget. Furthermore, if you leave and you have someone take on your app a year later, if that documentation isn't there, you're really not setting them up for success. So make sure as you're going, document what you're doing and the whys.
And we also have some key lessons for you based on our experience with no-code solutions. So we really recommend that you tailor the prototyping process to your environment. So we are a professional services firm, and we can take the lessons that we've learned from engineers and startups with prototyping, but we do need to apply them to a different environment. Prototyping is an art and not a science, but it can be adapted to how it best works for your team. Although it can be tempting to skip ahead, we really would stress don't miss the prototyping step. The feedback at this stage is going to be invaluable in order to design the best product possible. And it's also going to be really important to get the engagement and buy-in from the organisation later. It will actually encourage the actual uptake and usage of your no-code solution. We'd also say to allow enough time for the prototyping, and that's going to depend on the complexity of the user case, but it will also probably take longer than you think. It's going to be hugely important to ensure that you are building a product that people are going to use, so it definitely will be worth the time spent. And lastly, think about who to involve in this step. While we do have a sophisticated innovation team to assist with the prototyping, we realise that other organisations might not. G&T Innovate is our client consulting capability. It helps teams with transformation efforts. They may not have the resources internally to support them. So keep in mind that you can look internally for resources, but also externally for assistance if you do need it. So we're really happy to take any other questions now on the chat, or please feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to talk about prototyping or anything else more.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. And back over to you, Max.
Thank you so much, Erin and Lisa. This is really insightful, actually. It was really fantastic. You know, I think prototyping is an oft overlooked concept. People are constantly wanting to jump right into the main build, or they've scoped everything out, but they haven't quite validated that prototyping is a hugely important step in the process to, like was mentioned before, to get it in front of people, to validate your concept, and to make sure you've got something that you can take to the next step, iterate on, make it better, make it better, make it better. So thank you so much, Erin. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you everyone for joining us in another session. We've got a lot of great content. I know a lot of you are coming from our APAC region, but a lot of great content for the rest of the day. And as well, just a reminder that there was a lot of great content in yesterday's Neota network as well, so that you'll get those replay links after the event, but you'll feel free to revisit this as you're going through and planning out the rest of the year, or if there's anything that particularly gave you inspiration, you can definitely go back and check it out again. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next session of the Neota Network.